Hey, you're listening to Wrestling Roundup on Free FM 89.0. This is Grady Hooker, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
Episode 155. We'll jump right into it. They've announced the next inductee to the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2016. It's gonna be the Big Boss Man.
Woo! I didn't see it coming.
No.
I'm very happy for the Big Boss Man. He was one of the guys when I was growing up that I really enjoyed watching.
Yeah, he was that entertaining character who was pretty agile for a big man.
Yeah, he definitely was. But looking by the way he moved around in the ring, you wouldn't have guessed he was 350.
So I think last week we sat down and we talked long about what we were expecting, and those I think were mostly off rumors and leaked lists that had run around. Big Boss Man comes as a surprise to everybody, and I think it's better than a couple of the guys listed on the list.
Yeah, it was definitely a nice surprise.
Yeah. And continuing with the announcements trail, they've announced where WrestleMania 33 will be calling home. It's the Citrus Bowl in Orlando, Florida. Florida's last WrestleMania was WrestleMania 28, I believe, and the Citrus Bowl also hosted WrestleMania 24.
Yeah. That's why I'm a little disappointed in the decision to go back so soon.
Yeah, you don't normally get repeats in terms of specific arenas within 10 years. This has been, I think, 8. Trying to do quick math, and they're back in Florida in like 5. It seemed as though they were trying to spread WrestleMania out to a bunch of different states, and they've just gone back to Florida. But it might tie into the fact that they want to do a physical Hall of Fame next year.
Yeah.
And if there was to be a physical Hall of Fame, its home would most likely be in Orlando, Florida, so they can tie that into their Hall of Fame ceremony next year.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Though I do wonder when the switch to physical Hall of Fame is made, I don't know how in-depth or elaborate the physical Hall of Fame would be, but it's a lot harder to erase someone from the physical Hall of Fame than it is to just remove them from a WWE.com page. So I do wonder what happens when there's a physical Hall of Fame and you have people that, like Hulk Hogan or Donald Trump, for example. It'll be something that'll be interesting to see, but I think having a physical place that people can go to is another stream of revenue, and it's another way that WWE can just keep the money rolling in. And at that press conference, John Cena announced that he's going to be definitely missing WrestleMania 32.
Yep, that eliminates that option.
So we're going to be seeing Shane versus The Undertaker?
Yep, I think we are.
Yeah, I'm not mad. It's going to be strange not to have a WrestleMania with John Cena. But I guess it allows some other stars to come in and fill spots. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's the first WrestleMania since WrestleMania 20 without him.
He's been pretty much a hallmark. This is WrestleMania. It's time for John Cena. And generally a fancy entrance. So we're not going to see a John Cena fancy entrance either. But next Austin podcast, they've also announced a guest on that. So we're going to see Mick Foley on the next Austin podcast. Live on the... maybe live. I don't know. It's 3 days before WrestleMania. So I think Mick Foley will probably do well on that. He seems like he's the kind of guy who will fit in and be able to just talk with Austin. And I liked the Big Show one, so if it's going to be going in that direction, then I'll be happy. But if they're going to try and rein it in after the Big Show one, then no thank you.
Yeah. I think it'll probably be like the HBK and Ric Flair ones. The taped.
That's the easiest type. I imagine everybody's going to be super busy heading into WrestleMania. And might not have the time to sit down and do a live podcast. Unless they tape it at Access. In front of a crowd. I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas here for the WWE. Feel free to take them. But is there anybody who hasn't been on the Austin podcast yet that you'd like to see on it?
I always said I wanted to see Cena and Austin together. Then Cena went and did Jericho's podcast on the network.
I'm sure he can do a second. I think a lot of people are saying guys like The Undertaker. And I think Shane McMahon now is also a heavily requested one. But it is...
I think I'll go with Pat Patterson.
Bit of a left field pick there.
I think it'd be interesting to speak with, to see what some of the views on Pat has on the business and things, some stories he's had in the past.
Yeah, Pat's been in it for a while, so I guess he'll have a different viewpoint to a bunch of the guys who are coming in now. Okay, well, we'll go into our classic entrance theme in celebration of his Hall of Fame announcement. It is the Big Boss Man's entrance theme. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup on Free FM 89.0, Grady and Josh. So we'll look over to Raw now, and a lot of storylines are heating up. And it's very hard to tell if they're heating up for RoadBlock or if they're heating up for WrestleMania. But Ryback seems to have targeted the US champion Kalisto.
Yeah, I'm alright with that. Provide an interesting story for Kalisto. Ryback definitely tried to plant the seeds to try to split up the Lucha Dragons.
I think, well, the way we were positing earlier was the Lucha Dragons one-on-one. So to bring in a guy like Ryback, who's the bigger guy, and not necessarily the best performing, I don't know how well the Ryback-Kalisto match will go. But you've still got the argument of, are they heating it up for RoadBlock, and then they're going to move on to another match for WrestleMania, or are they going to wrestle at both? Is it going to be just WrestleMania and the US title won't be defended at RoadBlock?
Yeah, I don't know. They never even mentioned that there'd be a match at RoadBlock anyway, so...
Yeah.
Nothing was ever mentioned, no challenge. Basically, was Ryback... complaining that he doesn't have a match for WrestleMania, and that he respects Kalisto.
I don't know. RoadBlock is now this weird thing where you're never sure what's happening for that, because especially with Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, there's two very separate storylines for the two very separate shows. Dean Ambrose heading into RoadBlock, and then Roman Reigns heading into WrestleMania.
I gotta tell you, I don't really like having a special event just a couple of weeks before WrestleMania.
Nor do I. I liked the fact that there was a huge gap between the the last pay-per-view or the last big show before WrestleMania and then WrestleMania. I think it's normally 6 weeks. That just allows for 6 weeks of pure build, pure speculation and everything heading into WrestleMania to hype it up, to make it bigger, to try and get those buys in. And now you've got a special in the middle and you're like, well, am I meant to be hyped for the special or am I meant to be hyped for WrestleMania? And it's sort of distracting or taking the attention away, so WrestleMania will only have 2 or 3 weeks of full-blown 100% attention, all eyes on it. Though I think most people are just happy that they're getting matches they want on RoadBlock. With their Dean Ambrose title shot and Bray Wyatt, Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And then again, if we turn across to the other mid-card title, at the Intercontinental title, again, we don't know necessarily what's happening with it, but we do know that Sami Zayn has re-debuted onto the main roster and continues his perpetual feud with Kevin Owens.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I hate to say this, but Sami Zayn's injury may have been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because it could eventually give us an amazing match for WrestleMania.
True.
That we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah. Again, though, I don't know what's hyped up for Fastlane and what's hyped up for WrestleMania. It could still be the classic Intercontinental multi-man match, or we could go with a one-on-one. They might go for both and have the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens one-on-one at RoadBlock and then head into the multi-man at WrestleMania. Personally, I would prefer just a nice one-on-one at WrestleMania. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have proven time after time that they can put on spectacular matches, just the two of them in a ring.
I have a proposal.
Sure, shoot.
At RoadBlock, Neville versus Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental Championship, and the winner of that match faces Sami Zayn at WrestleMania.
Okay. And who are you having winning?
Kevin Owens, obviously.
Really, I just want to see what Sami and Owens can do on a main roster stage. They've proven it down on NXT time after time again that they can do great things. So I want to see what they can do on a main roster stage, given the time, which I hope they get given. Which might be why Fastlane's a better option, just because they'll have longer than being squished onto a WrestleMania card. But at least this tells us that Sami Zayn will probably not be in the Battle Royal. Which is a sigh of relief from everybody. So we'll go into our current entrance theme. It's a person who decided to attack Brie this past week. It is Lana's attention. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup on Free FM 89.0, Grady and Josh. So if we're looking at the Divas division, with WrestleMania and RoadBlock coming up, Lana seems to be feuding with Brie. Charlotte's got her triple threat set up. Then there's all sorts of other mini feuds floating around in the undercard for the Divas. What type of matches are we going to be getting heading into these two shows?
I don't know what we're getting for RoadBlock, but I'm pretty damn sure for WrestleMania we're getting 2 Divas matches.
Yay.
The triple threat title match.
Yep.
And then Brie versus Lana.
Okay. That's featuring 5 Divas, which probably for the last God knows how long is probably the least amount of Divas featured at WrestleMania. Normally we'd be getting some like 12 Diva, every single person on the roster come out and fight type match. Don't forget Total Divas versus non-Total Divas. We need that. And then if we look across to what was a tag team feud but sort of split up again, it looks like we're heading into another Chris Jericho AJ Styles match.
Yeah, I think it definitely probably needs the advantage of some type of stipulation to it.
Yeah, I think we've seen these two one-on-one in plain old singles matches too many times for it to not have a stipulation.
Especially with the beating that Chris Jericho gave to AJ.
Yeah, it's gotten to that level now where you can hit it's personal, give them a stipulation. We've already got a street fight with Dean, and we already got another stipulation match that I'm blanking on the stipulation of. But what can you possibly give these two?
The one you're thinking of is the Hell in a Cell match for Taker and Shane.
There we go, that's it. It's Hell in a Cell. So what are we going to give them? Just a plain old no DQ?
I think I would enjoy a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Oh,
It's been a while since we've had one of those at WrestleMania.
Fair enough. And if they stick with multi-man, maybe the Intercontinental will be a ladder. Who knows? It could go either way. If we're looking closer, and we're looking at RoadBlock right now, there's only 3 announced matches. There's the Dean Triple H for the world title, and there's Bray versus Lesnar, and then the NXT feature match. The NXT tag titles, Enzo and Cass versus the Revival. Is that card going to get filled out? I was meant to be looking at the time on when it happens. It's scheduled for March 12th, so we'll talk about it next week, essentially.
I don't know. It's probably going to have a lot of unannounced matches. It's possible they may throw AJ and Jericho onto that show, and then have AJ move on for WrestleMania.
Yeah. I don't know, because we've got, SmackDown, essentially, to fill out the card. I'm going to presume that, I don't remember correctly, but I think Beast in the East didn't have a fully announced card. It had some feature matches, and then some other matches filled it out.
Yeah. I think the only matches I remember being announced for Beast of the East special was Lesnar versus Kofi, and the NXT Championship match.
I think Jericho's match was announced as well. I just vaguely remember us talking about it beforehand.
It's possible. But I don't really remember any other matches being announced.
Yeah. So it's essentially just a high-profile Raw, or a high-profile taping. So you don't necessarily have all of your matches announced. But we got about, I can't do math quickly, 5 minutes. We'll just talk about those matches. We'll just see who's going to win between Brock Lesnar and Bray. I'll give you one guess who.
I'll give you 3 and 2 don't count. Yeah.
This match really has one direction.
Yep, no way does... Yep, Bray Wyatt's going to lose and then join One Direction.
Oh, he's already got the other 3 behind him, but Bray Wyatt has no direction at the moment, and Brock Lesnar's got to gear up and look strong for his Dean Ambrose match, so I'm sorry, Bray. At this point, I have no idea what's happening for Bray in WrestleMania. Probably some horrible 8-man tag. Who knows? Then we look up at the NXT match, the Enzo and Cass versus the Revival.
that what they're calling the mechanics now?
I don't know. I think I was going off what they said one time. It says a revival on Wikipedia, so I'm going with it.
Dawson. I haven't been watching NXT recently.
Okay.
The tag titles haven't changed hands, have they?
No. It's still Dawson and Wilder? But they've reignited their feud with Enzo and Cass. I think they attacked them outside the building and possibly injured Enzo. I'm not sure. But it's just the feud we're getting, and I guess it comes down to what's going to happen after WrestleMania. Because if Enzo and Cass are going up, there's no point in giving them the tag titles. And we've been positing an Enzo and Cass call-up for 3-4 months now? Maybe even longer?
Yeah. I figure the tag titles will probably stay with the current champions, because I really think the next champions will be American Alpha.
Yeah. I think the match scheduled for the takeover, it's not announced, but I think that's what they're heading to, is American Alpha versus Dash and Dawson. Small amount of time, main events left. Dean Ambrose, Triple H, who's walking out with the title.
Triple H.
Sounds good with me. It's been great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling Roundup Radio, our Twitter page, twitter.com/Wrestling R Radio. I'll see you next week.